Today's Dan Le Batard Show is sponsored by ADT Commercial for Business. ADT Commercial serves businesses ranging from mid-sized organizations to large-scale enterprises. Think of them as a special team who has one focus, your business security. They provide a comprehensive line of security, fire, life safety, and risk management solutions, professional-grade systems for commercial-grade businesses. With ADT Commercial, every day is game day. Fortune 1000 companies rely on ADT Commercial for highly complex, scalable, integrated solutions that help solve their unique business challenges. And if you are looking for a partner to upgrade or take over the monitoring and service of your current system, ADT Commercial can help to painlessly install and maintain large-scale and multi-site businesses. No pain, that's good in sports and good in business security. Visit us today at ADT.com/special teams to learn more. The Dan Le Batard with Stugotz Show podcast is presented by Capital One. This is Banking Reimagined.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Chris Cody is chanting, "We're still here," in the back room after announcing to everybody,
"We're still here."
That he is now washing his hands after going to the bathroom. I wanted to badly start the show with a 7-minute satire, all of us in character. Pandemic, overrated, underrated. Doing like a serious sports topic about the general hysteria going on in this country. And I've got to admit to the masses here at Le Batard Show, and I didn't start that way because we've just got a bunch of new listeners now, because everybody on the content front in sports is going to begin here you're feeling like they're drowning, because it's hard to do this stuff sometimes if you don't have sports news to react off of. But Guillermo, put it on the poll, because we are not experts. We don't have any credibility. Stugotz prides himself on being a character that lacks all credibility. And on the subject of pandemics, we have no experts around here. But we're so ignorant, or I'm so ignorant, that I legitimately, before this started, did not know the difference between an epidemic and a pandemic. I did not know. So put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Did you know the difference between a pandemic and an epidemic before the last month? All of that said, I really do feel when we have these conversations about underrated, overrated, that I might be splitting hairs on this, but I really do want to pump the brakes on the hysteria. Like, I want to, without minimizing it, without saying that it's overblown, understanding that people are dying, understanding that it's a scary thing. But if you're reading about South Korea South Korea handled this swiftly, better than we have, and got it under control. Italy did not handle it swiftly and had to shut down the whole country. We're somewhere in the middle there, and we don't know what unknown is coming, but we have just been hit by it in the last couple of days, because too often in America, what we do, and we certainly learned this in 9/11, that's stuff that happens over there. That's stuff that doesn't happen over here. And so the preparation hasn't quite been, and the reaction hasn't quite been as swift as South Korea, which can also, by the way, do things with civil rights that Americans can't do in terms of just shutting down liberties.
Hot start here, Nick Walenda.
But the unknown is what scares everyone, Dan. That's what scares people. That's why there's hysteria. It's the unknown.
But the absence of control, and I understand that control is often an illusion, but the absence of it has everyone here today behaving crazily, except for Billy, who somehow is calm. Like, all of a sudden, everyone's like, Chris is like, high five, but I'm just going to nod from over here. A fist bump, but not touching. I've got to open this door with my elbow. We work at a hotel. All we've got is tourists coming in here from all over the globe. I'm sure none of them have been tested. They're touching all the doorknobs and everything that's here, and we have no way of avoiding it.
I think Billy just appears to be calm. I think he's acting the same way he's always acted. He thinks every day is, today's the day I'm going to die. And so I think this is just all normal for him. He's fitting in. He's just acting normally.
This is your attempt at calming people, Dan. by telling them there's a bunch of people who have never been tested touching everything. You should freak out because you're probably going to get it.
No, but I'm saying that if this virus is transmitted, many and most of the human bodies who come into contact with it will react to it the way they react to a flu. And this is not to understate the damages that flu does or that this does or that pneumonia often does. But when you're talking about a virus, I feel like the way we're reacting right now is as if the zombie apocalypse is coming.
Well, because it is for older people, though. I have older people in my life. If I get, I'm with you that flu could not affect me, but I could go see my dad, and all of a sudden he's 65, and that's
of course. Yeah. My mother is an older woman with respiratory issues. I'm not saying that it's not something to be feared. I'm saying that the young people running around here taking these overt measures aren't actually helping themselves because you have no idea how this thing sticks to you.
And I'm ignoring my dad entirely, which I am greatly enjoying.
Italy, I did see that the New York Post was reporting that to help the people of Italy, Pornhub at a premium was available free for the people of Italy. I think that
really, wow,
that is something that's happening in Italy. I also saw that Donovan Mitchell. Did you guys see the video of Donovan Mitchell telling fans before the game while he was shooting, "Y'all can't touch me. Y'all might have the virus"?
I didn't see that, no.
Yeah.
That's probably where we should have led. I mean,
you do think so?
I don't know.
This is how crazy it is right now, Stugotz. This happened to me yesterday. I'm not kidding you. You know, as you go to the grocery stores and everything is empty and people are fighting over toilet paper, this happened yesterday. I go to buy some chicken.
Right.
And it's all gone. And I'm like, whoa, how did all of the chicken disappear? And then I get to the front and they tell me one dude came in and bought $3,000 worth of chicken because he was headed out on a yacht just to get away from people. Like he was just going to head. It's the thing we talked about like 2 weeks ago when we said the solution to a zombie apocalypse was getting into your boat and going out into the ocean. This guy was actually doing it with a bunch of chicken.
Take care of your chicken.
You're good, though. I did it for you.
Admit it, Dan. When you heard that, you looked it up. You're like, all right, let's see how much this costs. I'm gonna do the same thing.
Do I have someone on the payroll that gets me the chicken for my yacht?
How did someone get the $3,000 of chicken before I did? Mike! Allison!
So you got $3,000 worth of pork, I guess. You mentioned the Jazz. This appears to be a serious problem. Adrian Wojnarowski gave voice to it. People are really upset with Rudy Gobert. Like, they have a locker room issue that goes beyond just coronavirus now.
There's a lot of frustration in that locker room about how this played out, and it is going to be a challenge for the Jazz moving forward.
Locker room corona instead of locker room cancer. They're going to trade him for being a locker room corona.
Yeah, he went on to speak, like, there seems to be, like, a legit issue now between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Like, Donovan Mitchell's upset, and you saw the tone that Rudy Gobert took
super apologetic, super, remorseful about the idea that he had been a flippant idiot that was mocked by this was mocked by just about everyone because of the way that it looked. But yeah, if you're in that locker room, and I told you before, I talked to Charles Barkley, who Adam Schefter was reporting. He's now self-quarantined. He's waiting for his coronavirus test to come back on Saturday to see what he's got. Donovan Mitchell, because he doesn't feel well, and it's a throat catch, and it's a little bit of a fever. And Donovan Mitchell is out here, and how would you not be upset at your teammate if this is something that he was flippant about, and now he's costing you your health. He's costing you. You're spending time fearful because of something that he did flippantly with your health.
Yeah, but it might actually serve the greater good. I've seen some takes that have called Rudy Gobert like America's unwilling idiot hero. Because that
was just Bruce Arthur wrote that.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective.
Unintentional hero?
Yeah, an unintentional idiot hero.
I mean, but that's exactly what he is. Look, man, he got everyone's attention because sports didn't start closing down until basketball started closing down. And basketball didn't start closing down until we were introduced to our French idiot hero. Like, it's when he tested positive that got everyone's attention. We didn't have it before that.
It was him and Tom Hanks, right?
Well, Tom Tom Hanks was for America, but Rudy Gobert was absolutely for sports.
Because if you didn't know someone who had the coronavirus when Tom Hanks, even though you don't know him, but Tom Hanks putting his name to it saying he has it, you knew someone who had the coronavirus. And in sports, you knew someone because Rudy Gobert got it.
No, but it's not because Rudy Gobert got it. It's because of the reaction to Rudy Gobert. Hollywood didn't close down when Tom Hanks got it, Stugotz.
We should mention some breaking news. It's going to devastate Stugotz.
It already is.
The Masters has been postponed. So a tradition unlike any other.
Oh, God. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. I want to do a golf tournament. We play for the green jacket. Me, Chris, Cody, us, right? We put it on social media. We play for a green jacket. Can we do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
You want to do it? My house?
Yeah, let's do it this weekend.
Yeah.
My plans have opened up.
Don Le Batard.
Billy's got a conundrum here. He's got a dog now, and he doesn't know how to socialize with other dog owners.
Stugotz.
Dogs, Dan, I don't know if you're aware of dogs. Dogs like to smell each other and kind of like socialize and all that stuff. So then I'm holding on to a leash with my dog on it while another owner is doing the same thing, and I don't know how to interact with this owner in this case. Like, hey, my dog likes your dog's butt smell. As you guys know, I'm not good at small talk, so like this is a nightmare for me because what do I talk to these other dog owners about?
I experienced this exact same thing with my kid at a park.
It's the same thing. Kids and dogs are basically the same.
Same exact
Put it on the
thing.
poll at Le Batard Show. Are kids and dogs basically the same?
Because my 2-year-old wants to run over and play with other kids, and all of a sudden I'm standing there and our 2 kids are kind of chasing each other, and we're like, hey, yeah, there's our kids. How about that?
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio.
Oh, jeez.
Is presented. I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, you
that
sure?
wasn't. That wasn't phlegm. That was. It was not phlegm. I don't know what it was. I have no idea, but it wasn't phlegm.
I'd honestly prefer it being phlegm.
It wasn't. I don't know what it was though. Kind Look.
Oh, okay, there it is.
I just shoved half of it down my throat. Kind ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. The Dan Le Batard Show is brought to you by Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. All guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The NCAA has canceled the remaining of its winter and spring sports, including the basketball tournaments and College World Series. The XFL has canceled the rest of the 2020 season and will offer refunds to those who purchase tickets. The Masters has been postponed. Boston Marathon has been canceled. Adam Silver says the NBA will most likely be on hiatus for at least 30 days. Meanwhile, Charles Barkley has placed himself under self-quarantine.
You said canceled with the Boston Marathon. It's just been postponed to September.
Sorry about that. And finally, Marvel's The New Mutants, which was originally produced by Fox, has had its theatrical release delayed yet again. That is a tough word for me. I'm surprised I just pulled it out there. This time due to the corona pandemic.
Pulled what out there?
Theatrical.
Maybe.
I've already forgotten the story that you're trying to tell me. Take it from the top.
And finally, Marvel's The New Mutants, which was originally produced by Fox, it had its theatrical release again. Delayed yet again.
You are on a hot streak, brother. You are sizzling.
That is very difficult word for me.
Feed Stugotz. Feed him the ball. He's had a couple of funny jokes to start the show, and he said theatrical correctly 3 times in a row.
Again, I already forgot the story. You should probably take it from
the You probably need to start again. Yeah.
Marvel's The New Mutants, which was originally produced by Fox, had its theatrical. Oh, man.
Oh, man. You almost did it, man.
Clank. He was so hot, and he started.
Whatever it is, it was delayed yet again. That was hot. I felt good. This time due to the corona pandemic. The film, which wrapped production in 2017, has been delayed now 5 times since 2018. You guys clear on the story? Or? SportsCenter brought to you by Advance Auto Parts. Think ahead, think advance. At any time, 1 in 4 batteries is about to fail. Get a free battery test and free installation with any automotive battery purchase, only at Advance Auto Parts. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
So many of you have pointed out, you have delighted with us in the fact that we are a radio show that has prepared for this doomsday scenario for about a decade and a half to be able to not talk about sports. However, there is someone else who is also very qualified to keep you talking about things in the sports content business right now, and it's because God bless combat sports. I am watching television right now, and on every television in here, I'm not kidding, Andy North's on one of them, Masters postponed, Rudy Gobert apologizing is rolling across the bottom of the screen. Everything on our televisions is postponements, cancellations, it's pandemic, it's coronavirus, and then in the lower right-hand corner, ESPN Plus, Saturday at 3 p.m., fighting, baby, because fighting knows no rules. Fighting does not have to live the way that you live. The fighters can just be barbaric. Dana White can be out there and be like, hey, Sporting Eyes, Saturday, we got you. We can do anything without fans. We're the barbaric sport. Look at what we're doing to take your money already.
You've already looked past much worse.
Baked into our bread is some of the stuff that terrifies people about their health.
And I'll be there for it. I have no idea who's fighting, but I will be there to watch that fight.
Saturday, it is so funny. So Ariel Helwani is fine. It's business as usual in Ariel Helwani's world. He's just sitting there breaking down. He's talking to Sean O'Malley right now. This is funny.
Sugar.
How is it that you can arrive in a place where the combat sports can do whatever they want? If this gets worse and we're still going in June and July, whenever that Deontay Wilder rematch is supposed to be, does that mean the boxing will just go right on out there? Will it be an empty arena, or will boxing say, bleep it, we don't have to live by any of your rules either? We're going to draw a crowd. And what? Come talk to Tyson Fury about it.
Right now, the concessions are okay. Empty arenas. We'll move things to UFC complexes, but the fights still go on. And I'm happy about it so far because I'm willing to look past a lot when it comes to combat sports.
Well, but help me understand how it is that, Vince McMahon just shut down the XFL.
Take my word for it, wasn't easy.
But he still did it.
He did.
I understand. Vince McMahon probably didn't want to do it. Vince McMahon wanted to probably keep playing. Vince McMahon didn't probably want to be paying a whole bunch of people the way that he is for not playing football.
But wrestling is still going on, Dan.
He hasn't made any announcement regarding WrestleMania, which is happening the first weekend of April. And they had SmackDown is a live program now that airs on Fox. It was supposed to be in Detroit. They are moving it to a performance center, which is a small production training facility that they have. The show goes on for combat sports and sports entertainment.
If I'm Dana White, I'm sniffing around all of those vice presidents at ESPN who are always bouncing into each other, clucking about more sports. I'm going to every office. How about we cover MMA a little more around here? How about we just cover the hell out of my sport?
He's going directly to the actual vice president of the nation and getting blessings like, yeah, go ahead, go for it. And armed with that permission, combat sports moves on.
It is hard to understand, and I'd love to know what those conversations are like, because Dana White does not mind, as a leader, getting his hands dirty or getting his hands bloody. I wonder what those conversations are like as everyone else is being pressured to shut down, as everyone else is following basketball's lead. I'm telling you, it is funny looking at the televisions in here where all it is mass suspensions, cancellations. It's all coronavirus. And Ariel Helwani plugs on. It's Lee versus Oliveira, Saturday, 6 p.m.
I mean, he's got guests. He's got everything.
We're at a point now where the Liberty Bibberty guy is going to become the biggest face in sports.
How is this? Can you explain to me? Do you have any idea the technical aspects of, is there any pressure anywhere telling Dana White, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this, given that the rest of sports, everything else is
societal pressures, right? Yes, but they cater to a group that wants these fights to go on. So I imagine there'll be rounds of testing for those that are actually competing, and they have to get clearance from their medical team, and they'll lock two guys in a cage with a referee, and let's get it on.
Billy, help me with something here because I've gotten a couple of complaints here via Twitter. People are blaming me. They're saying, I get the show, and I don't know if it's a bit or what, but Dan spoiling Masked Singer for the second time yesterday is not funny. And someone else writes in, Dan, I'm sad that right out of the gate you ruined The Masked Singer for me. My fiance works nights, so we watch it together on Friday. After that, I listened to The Music Dome by Billy Gill. You ruined it. So yesterday, I didn't go to the Music Dome because we weren't on television yesterday. I thought this was largely a visual bit. I think that because it can't be an audio bit. Like, it can't be.
It was for like a year and a half, though. And then last October happened, and we had to pivot a little bit, so we made it a visual thing. But we're ready to go back to audio. I'm here for audio only if you guys want it.
Do it.
What a sad Friday night tradition.
Billy, how long do you think it will take? Can you do it up against a hard net workout next segment? Would you like to do it up against a hard net workout next segment?
I mean, Dan, I could do this in my sleep if you want me to.
All right.
But everybody knows how it ends, though.
New audience.
New audience.
Turns over in 15 minutes.
I didn't spoil it for anybody today. I didn't tell anybody it was Sarah Palin today.
Hold that thought. Let's sell some ads.
Oh, man. By the way, I'm certain someone's going to pressure Dana White at some point. Someone is pressuring the World Series of Poker to cancel. I mean, it is a petri dish, you would admit, right?
I love so much. Yes. That virus would be scared to go there, however. No one's getting near Doyle Brunson. He's still with us, right?
I don't know.
ZipRecruiter.
I mean, I'm checking right now.
If you own a company, you know that having the right employees can make or break your business. That's why you should let ZipRecruiter find the best candidates for your position, vacancy.
86 and alive and kicking.
All right, way to go, Doyle.
Yeah, 10 bracelets.
Wow.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Quoting home insurance just got easier with Progressive's Home Quote Explorer. Quote and buy all online at Progressive.com. Do it today. All guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The PGA Tour has canceled the Players' Championship plus the next 3 tournaments. UEFA has suspended Champions League and Europa League. The English Premier League has been suspended until at least early April. U.S. Soccer President Carlos Cordero has stepped down as the Federation and the U.S. women's team battle over equal play. Meanwhile, both the men's and women's team have had their friendlies canceled.
Equal pay or equal play? Same?
Equal pay. Did I say play? I meant pay. And finally, butterflies will feast on your blood and tears if given the chance.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Did you know butterflies will feast on your blood and tears?
Wendy's has breakfast now. We're talking fresh cracked eggs on every breakfast sandwich. Yep, it's going to be America's favorite breakfast. Download the Wendy's app for deals on your new favorite breakfast. Yep, for this, see you at Wendy's in the morning, available at participating U.S. Wendy's. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
We were marveling earlier. What's up, Stugotz?
I just can't say the word. I know you guys can laugh at me.
I thought you said it fine there.
Okay. Wow. Great.
So Ariel Helwani, we were marveling earlier at the fact that it seems like business as usual in mixed martial arts. Ariel Helwani, kind enough to join us here. Thank you for joining us. Can you explain to me in what ways it's not business as usual? Because it seems like you guys have got a fight on Saturday, and as you just heard Stugotz say, everything's postponed. But not you guys. You guys keep going straight ahead, no problem.
Yes, MMA. We forge on, guys. Thank you for having me again. Can I just say something? It's really weird that we're talking about this. I can't stop thinking of you guys because I actually first heard about the coronavirus in your studio. I remember when we were talking about the boxing fight that got canceled and Bob Arum called it a cockamamie disease. You remember that like a little over a month ago?
Yep.
That's when I first heard about it, and now look at our lives. It's horrible. I hope everyone's doing well over there. Yes, the UFC is powering on. They have an event tomorrow afternoon in Brasilia, Brazil, but they are closing it to the public. Coincidentally, we just found out that the the headliner was in jeopardy for a moment because Kevin Lee, who's fighting in the main event, a great fighter, missed weight. But now they're saying that the fight is going to proceed and he's going to have to give up some of his purse money to his opponent, Charles Oliveira. But then there's an event next weekend in London, and Dana White said last night on SportsCenter that that event is proceeding without any changes, which I feel like is going to change in the coming days because they just canceled all the Premier League games, and he's saying that like fans will be able to attend. And then they have two other events in Columbus and Portland, and they announced that those events are moving to Las Vegas, and they'll be held in a very small, closed-in arena with no public allowed to attend.
But help me out here. The Brazilian president just tested positive, and I can't think of a lot of worse places for old people with breathing issues than casinos in Las Vegas. What are we doing?
Well, the UFC Apex is what they call it, is a building that they built. Like, it's on their UFC headquarters campus, so it's not in a casino. But Dan, I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't agree with you. There's a litany. I mean, almost every major sporting league has postponed play. And there's a Bellator event. Bellator is owned by Viacom. They're the second biggest MMA promotion on the planet. They're holding an event tonight at Mohegan Sun, closed off to the public, and UFC holding an event tomorrow. Somehow MMA is immune to all of this. I don't know how. And you would think, off the top of your head, we're talking about, a viral disease. We're talking about sweating on people.
But here's the thing, Ariel, you're not actually immune to this is the thing. Are you going to these events? Like you say, somehow MMA is immune to this, but you're not. I don't care. There is anything.
I'm being somewhat facetious when I say that, obviously. You would think MMA would be the first one to go, right? Like PGA would be the last. MMA would be the first. But somehow listen, I've heard from a lot of fighters privately who... Okay, one second. I've heard from a lot of fighters. Sorry, my kids are at home from school, so you can see it's total chaos here. Yep. I've heard from fighters privately who have said, like, I don't feel very comfortable, but what am I supposed to do? I only get paid if I fight, so I'm not going to campaign to have fights canceled. This is not the NBA or the NFL. So they're in a really tough spot. A lot of these fighters are very defiant as well. They're true alpha males, and they're like, screw it, we'll get it done. But there's a trickle-down effect, right? Like when they train, they have to be in close quarters. These gyms, I don't know if you've ever been in them, they're not exactly the cleanest places in the world.
Awful. So, how do you but you, I defer to your knowledge in this sport on almost everything. You're telling me you don't know how it is that MMA is able to continue to plug on as everything else in sports gets canceled? The answer is I don't know.
Well, I don't think I said I don't know. I mean, Dana White came out and said it. I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. I mean, as of right this moment, Dan, there's an event in London at the O2 Arena next Saturday. Huge event. And he said last night, 8 hours ago on SportsCenter, that event is proceeding as planned, meaning fans are allowed to attend. But yet every other sporting event in Europe is postponed, including the Premier League. I don't know. He's very close with the president and the vice president. He mentioned that he spoke to them on the phone yesterday, some way, somehow, in the midst of all this. They seem to be, very confident that this is okay for them. I'm shocked. I truly am. I didn't think this would be the case. And so we continue. I don't understand it. I really don't.
Are you going to be going to these events?
I went to an event last weekend in Las Vegas. The next event that I'm actually scheduled to cover in person is April 18th in Brooklyn. Remember on Monday when I spoke to you guys, I talked about Khabib and Ferguson, which is one of, I would say, top 5 most anticipated events ever in the history of the UFC. And everyone was like, how's this one going to get canceled? Because it's been canceled 4 times before for very weird reasons. And they have not told us about the status of that event. I would be surprised if it, proceeds as planned. A lot can happen in a month or so, but that's the next one that I'm supposed to attend in person.
This is a bit of a reckless question by me. Ariel Helwani with us on ESPN Radio. But is Ferguson, between those two fighters, who's more mentally stable?
I don't know if I could answer that one properly. I would say that Tony Ferguson is a very quirky/unique character who a lot of people love because of that. I mean, he showed up to the press conference. It was phenomenal stuff. He showed up to the press conference dressed as a hitman, as he put it, wearing gloves and holding a baseball. And someone asked him, why are you holding a baseball? And he said, in case they run. And so I guess that means like he would knock him on the side of the head with the baseball or something, or at least throw it. And then Khabib has, his own sort of uniqueness as well. I'm trying to dance around this one. It's very uncomfortable.
Well, there have been things with Ferguson where it's not unreasonable to say, hey, look, he's a little off.
Yeah, well, actually, he's had some mental health issues and some pretty serious ones. There was an incident, a domestic violence allegation that never really, it didn't become too serious because his wife was able to cooperate, but there were some really scary details that were released in a police report. So, yeah, I mean, but look, Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov, for as quirky as they are, and can we just be honest for a second, MMA fighters on the whole are kind of quirky dudes. I mean, the fact that they do what they do for a living, I don't possess a DNA in my body that would allow me to even fathom walking into a cage and fight another man pretty much stripped of everything. They're a little quirky. Tony's probably at the top of the list, but I think that's part of his endearing quality. That's why we love him so much.
I want to make clear to the audience, by the way, I am not making light of the Ferguson mental health issues, but it is it's one of the reasons that he's so scary.
Yeah, well, I mean, also because he's really good. I mean, we knew about the mental health issues last year, but he's just a different kind of cat. I mean, there's a great sort of ongoing meme, if you want to call it that, online of Tony Ferguson is the kind of guy who does X, Y, and Z. I just read one yesterday. Tony Ferguson is the kind of guy who has cars looking both ways when he crosses the street. Like, he's just a different kind of cat, and people really enjoy his uniqueness.
In case they run. That's why he's holding the baseball.
That's funny. Ariel, help me out with something, because I am growing my hair out. Mike Ryan is making me grow my hair out. It's very long right now. It's annoying. He wants me to grow it long enough so I can have cornrows the next time I walk Masvidal in the ring into the octagon. When and who is Masvidal going to fight? Like, when and who is he going to fight? I need to know now.
Okay, so the original plan was July 11th in Las Vegas, but now they want to have Conor McGregor fight on that card, so they're not going to put a big title fight on the same card as a Conor McGregor fight. Why? Because Conor commands so much money, and when you fight for a belt, you get a piece of the pay-per-view, and they don't want to split that pie with other people. So probably what's going to happen, there's an event in August, early August. I would suspect right now the front runner for that event would be that fight. And he would fight Kamaru Usman for the belt, so it would be his first ever shot at a UFC title after 17 years in the game. It would be amazing. I hope they kind of get this going soon, because I don't know about you guys, I feel like he's lost a little momentum here. His last fight was in November. We need to get him back in there, so hopefully it's that August event.
Yes or no question before we let you out of here. Ariel Helwani with us on ESPN Radio. You should check out all his MMA coverage. He has a fantastic podcast where you will get super informed. You think, yes or no question, you think that we're going to continue along the path where MMA is uninterrupted?
Oh, my. Yes, because they seem to be strangely defiant about all this.
You
seem very angry.
Not strangely defiant. I think it's like
most predictable thing ever.
Predictably defiant. Ariel Helwani's MMA show. You can check it out via podcast. Thank you, sir, for making the time.
Thank you, guys.
Dan Le Batard.
I mean, they used to call me Chris Karaoke.
Stugotz.
Karaoke.
That back row is bringing it today.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Frank Martin going to join us in just a second. Here's your SportsCenter update. The PGA Tour has canceled the Players' Championship plus the next three tournaments. UEFA has suspended Champions League and Europa League. The English Premier League has been suspended until at least early April.
You can add Bundesliga in Germany to that list. They just canceled their games.
Okay, you just did that. U.S. Soccer President Carlos Cordero has stepped down as the Federation and the U.S. women's team battle over equal pay. Meanwhile, both the men's and women's team have had their friendlies canceled. And finally, 1995's Outbreak, starring Dustin Hoffman, has surged into Netflix's top 10. I noticed that. Just trying to find something to watch last night. I saw it there. Front and center. Outbreak.
You'll find Outbreak before you'll talk to your kids and wife?
Yeah. SportsCenter brought to you by Advance Auto Parts. Think ahead, think advance. At any time, 1 in 4 batteries is about to fail. Get a free battery test and free installation with any automotive battery purchase only at Advance Auto Parts. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
So Tony Perez, his entire Hall of Fame baseball life, never bothered to correct anybody that his name wasn't Tony Perez. It was Tony Perez. And when he went into the Hall of Fame, he went in as Tony. I'm not sure whether Frank Martin is Frank Martin or Francisco Jose Martin.
Oh, what a
so
great name.
I just want to ask him, thank you as always, Frank, for making time for our show. But is your name Frank Martin or is it Francisco Jose Martin?
Just like Atanasio Perez, it's Francisco Jose Martin.
Okay.
That's the prop.
Nobody's called you that.
Yeah. No, but that's how I sign every piece of paper that I sign. Anything I sign Francisco J. Martin. Dan, I get named the head coach at Kansas State, and I got a speaking deal to on campus to Hispanic leaders and Hispanic students from the state of Kansas. So I get up to introduce me. I get up to speak, and my opening statement was in Spanish. Even the people I worked for were floored. They had no idea. So it's
your name's Frank.
Just one of them deals.
His name's not Frank.
No, I know, but people call him Frank. Of course they'd be shocked by that.
The people who know you best, they'll call you Francisco.
Yeah, Franquito. That's what my mom and my grandma would call me.
Have you had any more luck finding Cuban food in South Carolina than you had at Kansas State?
Nah, we got a Cuban joint about 40 minutes away from my house that I kind of packed the family into a car and I go visit. It's called Little Havana and Little Piece of Havana, excuse me. Their food's actually pretty good.
Can you tell us what you think that people should be doing when it comes, like things you've heard in terms of interesting theories, giving kids more eligibility? Everything that's happening is so fluid right now with your sport. What are some of the best healing solutions that you've heard in terms of what should happen going forward?
Well, Stu's not going to like this one, but we got to get teachers raises. He gets mad at me all the time because I want to get teachers raises.
No, Frank, I told you my mom was a teacher. I'm good with that.
We do have to get teachers raises.
Hey, by the way, I'm like bored for the next 3 weeks. Can I come hang out with you guys? We can get everybody a raise around the country.
Oh, please.
Yes, come on. Let's come down. Well, I don't think people aren't going to be traveling very much. I don't know whether they should be traveling to Miami either, but if you're traveling, you should come in here through the studio and spend some time with us.
Just drive down. Forget Little Piece of Havana. Come and see actual Little Havana.
Oh, boy. No, Dan, let me see. I'm trying to figure out how to articulate.
You struggled to like that. Yeah. That you got a stumbling start there.
It's an unknown. It's like we're dealing with an unknown, and it's when you're dealing with unknowns, no one has the right answer. What I believe is everyone needs to take a step back in the NCAA and take a deep breath and realize that some folks' careers, student athletes, that is, were ended prematurely, whether they were in the conference tournaments or they were baseball players or track athletes, whatever. And we've got to figure out a way to maybe give those seniors the opportunity of competing one more time. And I know there's conversations about that right now. Will that happen or not? I don't know. But I think that's the most unique thing that's out there, making exceptions. So, for example, we have 13 scholarships. We got 2 seniors. We signed 2 players. Well, next year, allow us to live with 15 scholarships and give those 2 seniors the opportunity, if they choose to come back and compete one more time.
Frank, it's easier said than done because I'm certain you have a class of freshmen who are coming in, and maybe perhaps some of them are expecting playing time that they might not get. I agree with the premise, but I think all of it is easier said than done.
Yeah, but absolutely, Stu, and I think that's something that we all would have to manage individually, and then those freshmen, they want to be here. Come on. And if they don't, then we should be able to release them and then they can pick whatever school they want to go to.
You're asking for more freedom there that the NCAA is usually willing to give because they don't trust coaches to act purely and generously. They believe that coaches are going to game the system to their advantage. And while you might be totally altruistic about trying to get your seniors the right ending, I can see others looking at it and saying, well, what about the competitive advantage of having too many scholarships?
Yeah, no, it's women's basketball has 15 scholarships. We got 13, and it's a Title IX issue. So which I think needs to be revisited because we have such a transfer. I don't call it a problem. I'm not sure what the word is. Some people call it problem. I don't think I was a transfer. I said in this country, divorce is perfectly legal. I don't understand what the problem with a transfer is. We treat transfers like it's wrong. It's part of it. But I think a one-time exception to allow all of us. So if you had 3 seniors, then you signed 3 players, then you should be able to keep 16 players on your roster instead of 13. I think that's something that we should all be allowed to manage individually. But give those seniors the opportunity, if they choose, to be able to come back.
Is there anyone else that you point to? Frank Martin with us, the South Carolina coach, I should say Francisco Jose Martin with us on ESPN Radio. Beyond the seniors, is there anyone out there that you ache for the most? And we understand this is a pandemic. Sports is minor compared to everything that's happening here. But when you think of time lost, seasons lost, or this season being lost, anyone your heart breaks for more than even those seniors?
Well, 2 people. One I work with every day, and Dawn Staley. They're the number 1 team in the country, and I see we're extremely close as staffs, and we're friends, and I see how hard they work and where they were at, and to know what was in front of them, the opportunity to be the overall number 1 seed, and all of a sudden they don't get the opportunity to do that. And then the other one, Dan, who's my boyhood friend, he's a brother, he's my son's godfather, and Anthony Grant. He's back home at Dayton, and I think they're number 2 in the country. And to know the journey Anthony's been on, when his time at Alabama was over, all the talking heads were talking, well, now Alabama can hire a better coach. Well, it's the journey we live. We sign up for the jobs. So we kind of got to deal with the criticisms when they come. But to see him now end up back at his alma mater and have him number 2 in the country and not be able to finish this off to go compete for that championship, those 2 people right away breaks my heart for both of them because I know what they're about.
Frank, there's an opportunity for you here to take on a new cause, champion a new cause. Pay the arena employees.
Oh, yes.
It's all yours, Frank.
Instead of pay the teachers or on top of pay the teachers, pay the arena employees.
I'm all in. I'm all in because I know how hard those folks work. It's and we should try and figure out a way to come up with something. It's my sister and brother-in-law. They're small business owners in New York, and they're in the restaurant business. And it's it's folks that depend on that day-to-day job to live. We got to figure out a way to help them. I don't mean to be the ultimate humanitarian, but it's the right thing to do because those folks that work these arenas, they're welcoming for the most part. They're welcoming to the fans, to the people, to everybody, right. And they depend on those jobs, and we got to figure that one out.
I've been told, I have been told by others that you are a pretty good prankster, and I've been told that you tricked one of your coaches one time into thinking that you were selling your home next door to his to someone that he didn't like. What can you tell me about that story? And for how long did you keep that one up? Because what is the backstory there?
Oh my God! You guys get all the information. It's but we at Kansas, when we were in Kansas, we lived in a brand new development, and it was my strength coach, my home, my director of operations, and my associate head coach. It was us 4 lived on like next door to each other. And when we moved to a different part of town, I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't want to. I don't want to get in trouble.
You don't want to name the person he doesn't like. You don't want to name that person. I understand.
It's this politically correct world that we used to laugh about stuff back in the day. Now we all get in trouble for stuff. But we told our strength coach that certain people were moving into that I sold my house to a certain person. And he lost his mind, and we had him all worked up the whole time. And the new neighbor pulled into the driveway, and he was in his driveway. He's our strength coach. He's a big old muscled up, bald-headed guy. He was as rude as he could possibly be from day one, and then eventually we had to let him in that it was all a prank and a lie, and then he and his wife had to go next door and apologize, and it was pretty good.
I have to imagine that Francisco is more romantic than Frank.
Both are romantic. He's a softie with his wife, but who is more romantic, Frank or Francisco?
It's got to be Francisco.
Oh, it's Francisco. It's not even. Frank was the bouncer. Francisco's the guy that got lucky and got married and stays married. Hey, talking about that, I can't believe you guys open a club. I'm the ultimate ID checker, and you guys don't invite me to open the club.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Geez.
Well, wait a minute. We open
Frank
the club.
Wants to be a part of the show, Dan.
Frank, call back in an hour. We're going to open the club in an hour. You open up the club as a former bouncer. We'll open up the club in an hour with you. Okay. That wasn't a yes.
No, just the last.
I'll do whatever you guys need me to do.
All right, 1 hour.
We'll call you back in 1 hour. 1 hour from now, we're going to call you.
That'll work.
All right.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Dr. Celine Gounder going to join us in just a second here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The NHL has placed their season on pause. Major League Baseball will delay the start of their season. The NFL will not delay the start to their season, but have canceled their annual meetings. NASCAR has decided to postpone the race events at Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend and Homestead Miami Speedway next weekend. The Masters has been postponed. And finally, the Coco Bongo Club, seen in Jim Carrey's The Mask, is a real nightclub in Cancun, Mexico, and it's owned by Jim Carrey. Here's the SelectQuote difference. Most companies give you one option, one policy, and one rate, but SelectQuote shops and could get you up to 10 options from highly rated life insurance companies. For a free personalized quote, call 800-780-1010 or go to SelectQuote.com today. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
We are endeavoring to locate the aforementioned Dr. Celine Gounder. She is known as a disease detective. We will try and find her and get you some information here.
Probably a busy time for the doctor.
That is correct. Let me ask you guys this question in the interim as we await her, though. I saw a lot of people talking about what could have been Vince Carter's final moments as an NBA player at 43 years old. He, the other day, entered a Knicks-Hawks game, final seconds of overtime, hit a three-pointer. It was a cool moment. Vince Carter has run the gamut, right, from being a hugely promising prospect and dunk champion and a guy who at the Olympics jumped over a Frenchman who was 7 foot named Frederick Weiss. He went through the whole gamut, though, of then choker, and he can't be your number one player, and people ripping him, and what has he ever won, to being an old-timer who's hanging around the league, and we're marveling at the idea that he could still play basketball at 43 years old. And furthermore, he says he'll be able to dunk until the end of time. It's not getting up that's the problem. It's landing at that age again and again that's the problem. But what I wanted to ask you guys, even understanding that Adam Silver is saying that the NBA is going to be on pause for probably at least 30 days, is why are people assuming that's his last moment? Is whatever the reincarnation of the sport is, do they think it's going to start with just the playoffs and then the Hawks aren't in it? Or are there going to be some warm-up and tune-up games that allow the Hawks to actually play some games to end their season? I don't think and I don't know anything, obviously, but I don't think that was Vince Carter's last moment. I was kind of confused as to people thinking that it might be.
That night felt like his last moment because we just didn't know. Perhaps he'll have another moment or two. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think they know what they're going to do. I have heard, like Mark Cuban say, ramp it up, play 8 games before the playoffs start, but does that include the Hawks, who have no shot of making the playoffs? I don't know.
Well, but if you have 8 games, you need teams to play against, teams from the schedule. I don't know. Look, there are a million questions about all of this.
Yeah, it seems as though everyone's just going to hit pause on things and just reevaluate in 30 days. I'm sure conversations might happen over the next few weeks as to, hey, if we get back going, what does that look like? But right now, we just have no idea what the NBA might look like when it does indeed return, or if it even returns this season.
I do like a playoff that happens over the summer. I'm intrigued by that. Like, what if Kevin Durant is healthy enough to come back for the Nets? I mean,
so they get extra time. The Nets where are the Nets right now? Are they?
I think the 7th seed.
Yeah, they're gonna be in probably. That's what. Outside of the Western Conference, what's happening at the bottom there really aren't that many questions as to who's making the playoffs. So that's the argument for, hey, all this is pointless. We know the playoff teams. Let's just get it going.
Like, imagine if you're the Raptors and you're thinking you have to just knock off Spencer Dinwiddie, and then all of a sudden it's Kevin Durant.
That's funny. It's funny, the idea that the one team, is that the team that's going to have the greatest advantage from a pandemic? Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Is the team most benefiting from a pandemic the Brooklyn Nets because they get a delay on Kevin Durant's return?
My Heat over 43.5 wins desperately wants an opportunity to actually cash. This Battlehawks over 3.5 is just like an absolute heartbreaker.
What happens to those tickets, though?
No action, probably.
Oh,
yeah, they all get no action. They were sitting at 3 wins. Couldn't take care of business at DC, but it was all right. No one's winning in the Dome, and a hook shy.
A friend of mine wrote me asking, do you think Mickey Arison, given what's going on with the cruise ship industry, given just the general horror of, what you're reading about on cruise ships and how much the cruise ship industry has been just decimated by what it is that's happening right now. A friend of mine wrote me asking, hey, do you think Mickey Arison would sell the team, would sell the Miami Heat? Now, they've been a great ownership group for a long time. I don't imagine a scenario under which they would sell, but beyond everything else, because he wants to keep it in the family. Right. It comes from his father. His son has come up through the whole system and will be running the show eventually. But I actually think, and this is a flabbergasting thing to say, and it's a sphere that I can't even imagine people living in, I'm not sure the selling of that basketball team would help him enough, given what they're presently losing in terms of billions of dollars. It's not like if you own this cruise ship industry that you're losing merely millions of dollars. I'm not sure that selling a team for $2 billion, $3 billion, $4 billion, imagine the stratosphere you're living in when selling something for billions of dollars doesn't even help you that much.
I mean, they're talking about all sorts of economic packages to sort of help that industry, because forget just what's going on now, if you can. The stigma associated now with hopping on a cruise like this, that's going to take some time to recover from.
The Heat are valued at $1.75 billion right now. And that's not enough?
I think it would help. Also, are like hedge fund managers and techies your friends? Yeah. Someone sniffing around, you want to put some money together?
Yeah, what's going on there?
I'll throw it down.
I'm telling you.
Take Cash App?
There is, I've told you this story before about the realm that these people live in, where the money is so large that it is unfathomable to people like us.
I mean, how much money has Carrot Top made?
So you have this situation with the former owner of the Eagles, Leonard Toes, where he would...
That's his last name.
Last name's Toes?
Toes.
Lenny Toes.
Len Toes.
Len Toes.
I'm sorry. That's just the first time I heard that. Proceed.
So Leonard Toes, eventually there was a lot of reporting about him in which he was drinking a lot and he liked to gamble. And part of the thing that he would do is that sometimes he would refuse to pay gambling debts where he didn't recognize his own signature on the vouchers that he was signing for. because he had had too much to drink. And he was a man who lived very big. And the people who loved him were very concerned about his general well-being when he lost his money. And he was sitting in a mansion. I remember reading this story and being flabbergasted by the details of it. He's sitting in his mansion where the furniture has been sold, and it's sort of a shell of what used to be his wealth. And some of his friends were trying to raise money to help him out during a difficult time for all the generosity and all the good stuff that he had done when he had maximum wealth. And Dick Vermeil walked in to his mansion where he's sad and he's broken and there's no furniture, and was very excited to tell him, hey, we got you some help. Your friends got together and got you some help. We've got $10 million for you. And his response was, I thought you said you were going to help.
Stugotz here. People do amazing things every day, so it makes no sense that they shouldn't feel confident about doing their taxes. TurboTax believes that with the right tools and encouragement, people can do anything, even taxes. And with TurboTax Live, you even have access to CPAs and EAs on demand who are available to answer your questions or to give advice on how to file, even on nights and weekends. So you can do your taxes with ease and confidence and never feel stuck or alone during the tax process. You can also rest assured that you'll get your best possible outcome, which means you can file your taxes quickly and easily and get back to all those amazing things people do every day. TurboTax. All people are tax people.
Don Le Batard.
I heard the hotel industry is moving away from providing shampoo and soap.
Oh, don't get me started on them.
Yeah?
Do not get me started on hotels and the stuff that they do.
Right. What they take from me, I feel like I'm entitled to take something from them. Thank you, Billy.
They're going to throw away the shampoo. They're going to throw away the soap. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the sheets, and I'm talking about the towels.
Stugotz.
Oh, we really care about the environment, so please hang up your towels. Get out of here. You just don't want to wash these towels because it's going to cost you money to wash these towels. All right? This whole thing about you're saving the whales or you're saving the turtles or whatever because I put my towel on a hanger, it is so full of it. All right? You just don't want to give me fresh towels every day. Just call it what it is. Tell me you don't want to give me fresh towels. I'm still going to throw it on the floor. All right? I feel like water is a renewable resource. And you're not really saving the ocean by using water to clean my towel, are you? Am I missing something? What am I missing? Nail right on the head. Am I missing something?
The end of the story.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Steve-O expected to join us in just a second here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The NHL has placed their season on pause. Major League Baseball will delay the start of their season. The NFL will not delay the start to their season, but have canceled their annual meetings. NASCAR has decided to postpone the race event at Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend and Homestead Miami Speedway next weekend. And finally, Scream 5 is reportedly in development. Really? How many times do you have to scream? I mean, Scream was good, right? The first?
Yes.
Everything after that has been pretty dreadful, no?
Hasn't been great.
We keep churning them out, though. SportsCenter brought to you by Bolt 24. Being an athlete is 24/7, so stay hydrated with Bolt 24 with antioxidant, vitamins A and C, electrolytes from watermelon and sea salt, and no artificial sweeteners or flavors. Bolt 24, all-day hydration for all-day athletes. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
So it's a bit of a chaotic time, and we ask your forgiveness in not having very high on Disney or ESPN's priority list getting our phone line situation fixed. But it's the reason that we have some broken promises today in terms of promising you
not exactly. Guests aren't calling in. We can't dial out long distance in hopes to track them down, but we've been trying from our personal phones and whatnot. Sometimes we don't have backup numbers to call, but look, it's understandable that there's a lot going on in the world right now.
Well, that's what I was beginning to explain. There's a lot going on, and so I wasn't saying that our phone line issue needs to be at the top of the list. I was just explaining to the listener why it is that Steve-O is not here right now and why it is that the disease doctor was not here that I promised 30 minutes ago.
To her credit, she did call. It was just a little late in the window. It closed for us.
Okay.
Regardless, what I wanted to ask you guys about before we get to Stugotz being woken last night in the middle of the night by his leg cramp is the idea that people are fighting over toilet paper right now. I understand it, right? If there is a quarantine, you do not want to be left without toilet paper. But is that the prime item that people are fighting over? Like, of all the things, if I tell you,
it's sanitizer.
If I tell you, but are they fighting over sanitizer?
They're fighting over sanitizer, toilet paper, and water, and shopping carts.
And mask, surgical mask.
Well, the businesses that are flourishing right now are the hand sanitizer business, whoever's making surgical masks, and I got to imagine, good God, is there a lot of money to be made right now by whoever it is that's making these coronavirus tests, because the faster you can make them, the more they're going to be bought. And so there's a lot of profit to be made there. The rest of the economy is getting brutalized and butchered by this. But there are a handful of places where people can make some money. I've talked enough about this. How about you, Stugotz? Tell me about why I saw Mike cringe and wince. I saw Mike cringe and wince when I mentioned being woken by leg cramps.
It is the worst pain. I maintain, and I don't know how, certain people deal with the pain and trying to get the leg cramp to go away. I've gotten leg cramps when I'm awake. Of course, everyone has. I woke up last night in the middle of the night to a leg cramp. Now, it was in my calf, not my thigh. I usually get them in the thigh, got this one in the calf. And then I just try to straighten it out, or I try to get in the right position so the pain goes away. But I maintain that the 5 seconds right after getting a leg cramp, that is the most amount of pain I'll ever feel in my life. There is nothing more painful than the 5 seconds until you figure out what position you need to get your body part into to get rid of the cramp. There is no greater pain you will feel in your lifetime than that of a cramp.
It's pretty bad at night. It'll startle you, and it'll startle those around you, and it almost seems as everything that you try to do to make it better makes it worse.
Correct.
I would nominate a broken femur.
There are any number of broken situations that would be more painful, but Stugotz is talking about
5 seconds, though, that it happens.
And I feel like Stugotz is talking about things that are otherwise seen as benign. Broken bones and whatnot are a different category of things. This is the stub toe. This is, put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. What is worse, the violently stubbed toe or the leg cramp that wakes you up in the middle of the night? Because those leg cramps, are they worse than cramps in your feet, Stugotz?
They are worse than cramps in my feet. The cramp I get in my hamstring, the thigh area, is worse than the one that I get in the calf. But the part that Mike pointed out, which is very important, is it happening while you're sleeping. Because it's haunting, man. I couldn't go back to sleep. I woke up in a sweat. I didn't know what was going on. I tried to straighten my leg. You're a little bit groggy. I didn't know what to do.
Sometimes when you try to straighten it, it just gets worse.
It got worse. Yeah, it got worse. I woke up the entire house. I was screaming.
If we're just talking about quick pains, what about burning the top of your mouth or your tongue on a really hot piece of food?
That's a good one. That is a good one.
Well, what would be the list of this? If we were just trying to cover all of the benign pains, is brain freeze on there? Is brain freeze
brain freeze is...
No, I don't mind a brain freeze.
What?
It's a nice little...
I hate a brain freeze.
You don't mind?
Nice little jolt, nice little wake me up.
Whoa.
No.
What are you talking about?
I'm just saying, in this conversation, I don't think brain freeze is one of the worst. It's one of those things you're having it, but it's all right, this will be done in a second. No biggie.
A heartburn, the conventional way, is it rising up? But sometimes you have a hot soup, and it's too hot. It burns your mouth, and then it travels all the way down the esophagus, and you feel it in your chest. That is hellish.
Oh.
Stugotz, what is a worse feeling? Getting leg cramps or not being able to find a bathroom when you're out in public and you have lapsed into prayer?
Ooh. Man, that's a tough question. That's the most difficult question you've ever asked me.
But you know that there's something that you can do when you need to go to the bathroom.
Well, not if you can't find a bathroom.
Yeah, but you just go.
You're still fighting. You're still you can hold tight the cramp. Even as you try to fight it, it only gets worse.
Yeah. It's weird wrestling with the cramp, man. You know what Mike and I are talking about, right?
Yes, it is.
It hasn't happened to me.
It hasn't happened to me in a long time, but yes, it is a terrible feeling to not know what it is you're supposed to do with your leg as you're screaming or it hurts and the pain isn't subsiding from your movements, and often the pain is being made worse by you moving it in another direction. Yes, I am not disputing the horror of what it is that you describe in the small realm of benign horrors that we're talking about.
What about a toe cramp in a pool?
That's a good one.
Oh, my God.
That is a good one.
Swimming pool toe cramp.
Wow, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
Is it worse than the stub toe? The stub toe, I think the second or two before the pain arrives on the stub toe from getting from your foot to your brain, I think that's almost as bad as the leg cramp.
The anxiety of knowing what's about to come.
You know, like you have stubbed your toe and your body has given you a pause for just 1 or 2 seconds before the pain reaches your brain, and the fear is just as bad as the pain. We open up the club with Francisco Martin.
Yes. Don Le Batard.
It's Friday. I'm getting into the weekend. I want to get my drink on.
Stugotz.
We've got to open up the club. Open it. Open it. Open it. Now. What is the computer buffering? There it is.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Today on ESPN Daily, with the NBA season on hold and March Madness canceled, the coronavirus pandemic has brought the sports world to a halt. What will the cost be to league players and the workers who will be hurt the most? ESPN Daily, presented by ADT. Download, subscribe, and review ESPN Daily, available wherever you enjoy your podcasts.
If you are just joining us, you may have missed an hour earlier, when we talked to our friend Frank Martin, the South Carolina basketball coach, whose name is actually Francisco Martin. And he explained that Francisco Martin is his wife's husband, romantic softy, who is exceptionally Latin. But Frank Martin was what he was back in his Miami days when he was a nightclub bouncer. How long did you have that job, Frank? And how long, and where was it?
Name the place. A bunch of different places. You can't stay at the same place real long. It's like coaching. If you stay in the same place long enough, everyone hates you. So, it's you got to move around.
Now, Coach K is doing fine there, Frank.
Whoa.
I was just saying.
Whoa. What were you saying? What are you saying?
That there's a coach who has stayed in one place for a very long time, and he's beloved. That's all I'm saying, Frank.
Unnecessary, Stugotz.
No, it's all good. I did it, give or take, over the course of maybe 10 to 12 years.
Oh, wow. And the most brutal situation you found yourself in, did you get hurt ever?
Actually, two quick stories. One, we had a fight, and it was quarter beer night, and I came running around the bar, and I slipped. And I slid. Imagine, the floor was wet. I slipped under the pool table. I had no idea. It's pitch black. I had no idea where I was at. And I jump up, and I hit myself in the back of the head. So now I'm really mad. So I get out from the pool table. They got the fight under control. The other bouncers see my white shirt all dirty. They thought those guys had kicked my tail, so they beat the living you-know-what out of those poor guys. The guy that hit me was the pool table. So it's that was a funny one. And then one night there was actually guys that we had to put out, and they waited for us outside, and they came by. We saw a car coming, and they started shooting. That was the one night I said, making $75 a night just probably ain't that, it's not worth it.
All right. And on that note, Frank, you asked earlier, Francisco. Well, Frank is the one who asked. He wanted to open up the club, so feel free, sir. You go ahead and tell the people when the music can start, when the club can open, and we will let you get into your weekend. Go ahead and open it, Frank.
Well, as we get going, this interesting week,
Oh, no. Francisco. We can't get the phone line.
Oh, okay.
Phone line. The phone line. We'll start over. We've had trouble with the phone here for the last hour.
For all my years, I threw misfits out of clubs. Now, this is my kind of club. We bring the misfits in. And let's start opening them doors.
Yes.
The first one out the door is Rudy Gobert.
Yes. All right. Gobert, you get out of here, Frenchie. Get out of here. Thank you, Francisco. We appreciate it. Come hang out with us in Miami. We look forward to it.
We'll see you guys soon.
All right, I'm sorry, Frank.
It was such a weird decision by you.
It's a sports take.
I mean, you had to give him a sports take that was insulting. Yeah. It's going okay for Coach K, who's better than you, Frank. Before we get to the club, let's just update some quick polls here before we let the sounds in the misfits in.
At Le Batard Show on Twitter, was Will Ferrell smart to turn down $29 million to do an Elf sequel? No. 58% of the audience said no. Is darts going to be the biggest sport of the summer? 85% of the audience said yes. Did you remember last night that Fred Hoiberg coached Nebraska? These are yesterday's polls, by the way. 56.5% of the audience said no. On to today's polls. Big fat white face. Big fat white face. Did you know the difference between a pandemic and an epidemic before this month? 70% of the audience said no.
Oh, I feel less stupid.
This is a big one. Who's more famous, Tom Bergeron or Zac Efron? 76% of the audience said Zac Efron.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
It's so wrong.
Did you know that butterflies will feast on your blood and tears?
That was an amazing fact that you threw at us earlier.
I mean, who could know that? 82% of the audience said no. The other 18% lying.
Let's see what we have here, Mike. The first sound that we welcome into our club of misfits is...
Everybody.
Again, with Andy King, the original producer for this show, singing about Pat Riley.
Is that Riley?
Who else?
Everybody.
Oh, for the love of God.
He's not limping, right? Being right. Riley's back.
Stay worldwide. Oh, come on. Who else is in the club?
What would you do if I took it to the roof? Would you stand up and try to block me?
Are you going to just play nothing but Doliak songs?
Play some defense and I'll back it out. I will try to hit it from the top of the key.
You are going to play only...
That guy saved us.
He's going to only play Doliak songs.
Do you know the difference between a CVS and a Walgreens once you're inside? I did it.
You maintain that you said Walgreens.
You're right. Nope. I went back and listened on my own, Mike. I knew I did it.
Who else?
Do you know the
club?
difference between a CVS and a Walgreens once you're inside? And Mike says that's a sign of aging. That's a sign of getting old when you start leaving S's out.
Or adding them when they don't belong. Who else in the club?
The Brady Hunch.
So bad.
The Brady Hunch.
So bad. Chris, what are you laughing at? Mike said that's the worst thing you've ever done.
The segment, though, I mean, it found its footing today, man.
Who else is in the club?
Oh, if only I could buy with a little help from Frank LaFrance.
Who else is in the club?
He played with Leitner and backed up Shaq. Was great with rebounds and putbacks.
I don't think Zoe has had a better moment on this show. Lorenzo was so underestimated there, and he brought it strong.
At times, a wide is down the floor. She don't play back there, bar no more. Mike Oliak, don't talk about
it. He really did. He deserves more credit.
He deserves credit. Who else is in the club?
Since the beginning of time.
That's the worst thing he's done.
Nostradamus is your nominee for dumbest thing Chris Cody has done?
Since the beginning of time.
Who else is in the club?
My neck, my back, my Michael Doliak.
I think that might have been the best one we got. Who else in the club?
Who let the Doliak? Who let the Doliak?
I think you're wrong, Dan Le Batard.
Who else in the club?
You got to listen to the people that's keeping a track on what's going on.
That was a tremendous backtrack by LeBron.
Trevor's always going to do something nuts. He's our nuts. That's why they enjoy him.
Wait a minute, what?
Trevor's always going to do something nuts. He's our nuts. That's why they enjoy him.
Who else?
I was eating Cherry's Jubilee.
Yes! Yes!
I was eating Cherry's Jubilee.